Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Nelson, and I'm glad to have you all for episode 7 of CryptoBind Digital Insights webinar series. And today's topic is very interesting. We are going to discuss about cyber resilience in age of AI and how we will be working towards securing AI systems. And today we have with us Lieutenant Commander Dheeraj Yadav, who brings strong expertise in cybersecurity, cyber resilience, risk assessment, and cloud security. And with us, we also have moderating this session our CEO Isha Oswal from GISA Softtech, who is continuing to lead conversations around building secure and trusted digital ecosystems. So I'm very excited for this session, and I'm pretty sure we all are. So Isha, over to you, and let's get started.
Thank you, Nelson. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to CryptoBind Digital Insights powered by GISA Softtech. I think we are back again, and I'm really excited that this is continuing for the seventh episode now. And I really thank each one of you for joining us today. And today's topic is cyber resilience in the age of AI. So, securing our AI systems. Everybody knows AI is transforming the way organizations operate from automation to decision making. But along with these advancements, AI is also coming up with a lot of new risks in security. So today we just don't want to talk about how AI is helping build cybersecurity related aspects, but more importantly, let's also understand how we can secure AI systems themselves, including data, models, or any kind of access. So to discuss this, I am really strongly delighted to welcome Lieutenant Commander Dheeraj Yadav, a strong CISO with very strong expertise in cyber resilience, risk assessment, incident response, and cloud security. So Dheeraj, welcome to the session. Great to
Thank
have
you.
you here.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So as you know, Dheeraj, AI is all around, and we've been hearing out about building a lot of AI systems, using
Yes.
data, building their own models. So when we start about this, the first segment, I would talk about a couple of pointers,
Mhm.
including securing AI data and systems. How do we secure use of cryptography? So to begin with, I just wanted to understand AI is now a part of many systems that we
Yes.
understand. So where do we see that biggest security risk which happens today in AI, whether it's around data, model, or deployments?
Honestly speaking, Isha, the biggest risk is not just in the model itself, but it's the entire AI ecosystem. For example, uh, data risk is very, very huge in this case. If your training data is poisoned or sensitive enterprise data is flowing into the uncontrolled Gen AI systems, you have a serious problem. Okay. We have already seen employees accidentally copy paste or upload proprietary source codes or confidential data into the public AI tools. Okay. Then comes the model risk is another layer. Things like model theft, adversarial attacks, model inversion, where attackers may infer sensitive training data. But in my view, deployment is where the most practical risk sits today. Question will be why. Even my team asks, why do you think so? So because AI is now embedded into APIs, SaaS workflows, agents, co-pilots, healthcare systems, banking decisions. And if those integrations are insecure, the model itself doesn't need to be broken. Uh, for example, let's take few examples. In financial services, AI-driven fraud models can be manipulated through adversarial inputs. Okay, in healthcare, poisoned or biased models can impact diagnosis outcomes. In the healthcare professionals, the doctors will end up giving you the wrong prescription in this case. Very, very fatal, can be very, very fatal, worst case, considering the worst case scenarios. In autonomous systems, manipulated sensor inputs can cause unsafe decisions. So I often say this one thing, that the issue isn't just securing the AI, it's securing AI inside real world digital ecosystem. Yeah.
That's quite deep. Basically, I'm sure people building it must not be thinking through so much. And of course, we still have a lot of leaders like you
Yes.
who can help us create this awareness, and which is where I'm sure through this series, it's going to help a lot of people. So moving on to the same, topic, what I
Mhm.
understand is there are many ways where this AI can be misused. Like you
Mhm.
mentioned, what could be at risk, but how is also important. So, what are the most common ways where you feel AI can be misused or it can be attacked in the real environments also?
Okay. So really, we are seeing very practical attacks now in the current scenario. One major example is prompt injection. Even everyone is trying to do prompt injection these days, where attackers manipulate the models through crafted instructions. We have seen research showing how a malicious document in a retrieval system can hijack a Gen AI attack Gen AI assistant. Uh, then there is a data leakage where unintentionally exposing the IP or regulated data through Gen AI. Uh, Another example is deepfake enabled fraud. Uh, we have seen voice cloning used in executive impersonation scams. We do executive monitoring also in this organization, so we have seen these cases increase multifold. Then supply chain risk, for example, compromise models, poisoned open source dependency. We have seen one such case recently, right? Then malicious model repositories are few of the cases in this scenario. And with AI agents, emerging, a bigger concern is agent abuse, tricking AI into taking actions it shouldn't. And everybody is trying to do this, to be very, very frank. So that is another scenario. Traditional cyber attacks targeted the applications. Even we, when cyber attacks or when we were doing red teaming or VAPT exercises, we were targeting the application. Now the attackers may target reasoning itself. Now that's a very, very big shift which we see coming.
So, I think coming from a background where mitigator does, securing these risks,
Mhm.
I'm sure this is something which is more deep dive and you would be getting into every aspect how this can be misused or attacked.
Yes.
So
Yes, yes.
definitely.
So yes, even we are deploying our models, and all these cases we also take into scenario. We're taking into the scenario, and my job here as CISO is to ensure that all these things are taken care. Yes.
Okay, this brings to my exactly the next question. That when we talk about how possible risk can happen and what kind of risks are associated with it, important question is also organization would think, how do I secure my AI model and the data which is there with AI models? So what are the ways or how do you ensure that security is at least, thought about? There's much more on security, I understand, but to begin with.
Okay. In this case, I will say this. First treat AI like a critical infrastructure, not
Okay.
just not an experimentation. We have to do away with that experimentation phase. It has to be considered as a critical infrastructure. My bad. So I usually recommend the five priorities, which I've established in my own organization also. First is inventory AI assets. W- we all face those cases of shadow IT. Now there's a case of shadow AI. Nowhere AI exists. Shadow AI is a very, very big issue. It's a real issue. For all the CISOs at some point in time, the issue used to be shadow IT. It has shifted to shadow AI now, right? Then comes the protect the data first. First thing you have to do is classification. You have to classify your data. Uh, Ensure the encryption is ensured. Tokenization, DLP, very, very important. Then comes the case of secure the model supply chain. Just like software supply chain, security became critical. Model supply chain now matters a lot. Red team AI systems, test prompt abuse, model manipulation, output abuse. We do these kind of exercises in house at Mitigator, and we are able to successfully do. do these cases, do these scenarios, right? Then comes is fifth point will be build governance early. It is very very important. Use framework like I'll recommend two here to be very frank to start with. Use framework like NIST AI RMF and emerging standards like ISO 42001 are very very important to build the governance at the early stage. Uh, a strong example is what some banks are doing now. They treat AI model governance almost like financial controls with validation, approval gates, and monitoring. Now that's the maturity we need, and even our a respected finance minister, initiated a meeting with all the banking firms which came into news. So we can see even the government taking this action and this initiative. So that is the kind of maturity we all need now.
I think that's quite a lot. Even for me, it's so much of information that we're not aware of because AI is way too fast than even we are planning
Yes.
to adapt to it. So definitely these aspects are going to be very, very helpful for the audience. So while we talk about AI models, data, I think we need to also talk a little more about how these attackers try to, get hold of these AI system. Probably repetition you might find in the question, but I wanted to talk about specially focusing on Gen AI or chatbot based applications. So going a little precise because I think industry is more focused on that. A lot of small, medium, large organizations are just going ahead and building applications without any fear. But then they should be made much aware of what are the ways or how the attackers can target these AI systems.
Okay, so Gen AI has introduced entirely new attack, categories. Prompt injection is the big headline, but it also calls out retrieval attacks using RAG, data exfiltration through prompts, plugin and tool abuse, jailbreaking safety controls, manipulating the agent workflows. A good example will be let's imagine in an enterprise AI assistant connected to the HR systems, right? CRM and email. Okay. Now, if compromised through the prompt manipulation, it may not just give wrong answers. It could trigger unintended action also. Okay. Going back, let me reiterate the entire scenario again. Now, what I'm saying is, imagine an enterprise AI assistant connected to HR system, CRM, and email. So what it can do is not just the wrong answers. If compromised through prompt manipulation, it could trigger unintentional actions also. And we have seen these kind of scenarios where every day you open LinkedIn or some other forums and you'll see these kind of scenarios happening in day-to-day activities, even in the home labs or in the corporate environment both. So, right. So that's
Yeah.
very different from the traditional application risk. Even now, OS talks about LLM top 10 risks, which shows this is becoming a serious discipline. Um, and honestly, we are just scratching the surface, to be very, very frank.
Yeah, it's quite concerning, but quite relevant as well, obviously, to what's happening around today.
Yes.
So yeah, and we've been talking about these applications or creating these applications have become so regular or everyday task, and everybody is actually trying to create their own AI applications. With this, I think this is very, very critical that they need to focus a lot more on data as well because as you mentioned on all your answers or while we you talked about a lot of ways of identifying how AI can misuse the data or how and leakage can happen. So all of this quite a lot revolves around data as well. So do you have some recommendations or you want to talk about some ways where organization can implement some controls in order to prevent data leakage or maybe misuse of these AI applications?
Okay, now this question is very close to my heart, so I'll be talking in detail about this particular query. Uh, I'll take at least 5 to 10 minutes to answer this because I think this is one of the most important questions you have asked. Uh, why this is important question as per me is as because an organization rush to adopt, organization are rushing to adopt Gen AI. The first major concern for the CISO and the board is often not can we use AI, but how do we use it without losing control over data, DPDP into picture, we all know how important the data is. Even the government is uh, uh, even it is government's pride,
Yeah.
and that is why DPDP came into picture. Now, honestly, the answer is layered defense. There is no single control, no doubt about this. There is a layered defense, and there is no single control for this. So I usually break it into governance controls, technical controls, runtime controls, and resilience controls. Uh, Start with data governance before AI governance. Okay. Uh, a lot of organizations try to secure AI first and data second. It should be the opposite. You have to secure the data first and let's get into AI second. If sensitive data, for example, let's take an example. If sensitive data is not classified, governed, and controlled, AI will amplify that risk. Okay. So what organization need is data classification. Don't categorize into four if you are four categories if you are feeling it little overworked. Categorize into three, for example, public, confidential, and regulated. Data minimization principles, very very important. Tokenization and masking, encryption in use in transit and rest. And who knows better encryption or the use of encryption than you yourself, and the importance of it. Restriction on what data can be sent to external models, very very important. And one of the use cases you guys are solving is this use case. For example, several enterprises now redact PII, customer data, or source code before prompts ever reach an LLM. Now that's powerful because you reduce exposure before the model even processes the data.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Yeah. So I often say, don't just protect the model from bad data. Protect your data from unsafe model usage. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, uh, in continuity to it, I'll say implement guardrails around prompts and outputs. Now this is becoming a very major control layer. People focus heavily on model security, but they forget prompts are effectively a new attack surface. You know, Control here include, for example, prompt filtering, prompt injection detection, output validation, toxicity and leakage filters, policy-based response restrictions. Let's take an example. Okay. If someone asks a model to retrieve confidential records or expose internal instructions, guardrails should intercept that. Now think of it as WAF controls for AI interactions. You have to correlate with the existing to make people understand sometimes. I always say this, think of it as WAF controls for your AI interactions. Now, in that case, people understand it better in our cases. Now, and in Gen AI, prompt security is becoming what input validation was traditional application. Uh, then comes secure retrieval systems, specifically RAG architectures. This is huge right now. A lot of enterprises are building retrieval augmented generation systems connected to internal knowledge. This
Right.
introduces new risk, poison documents, malicious embedded instructions, unauthorized document retrieval, sensitive data exposure. Uh, a compromised knowledge source can manipulate model's response. So now let's talk about few controls here. Document trust validation, retrieval logging, context sanitization, access controls on retrieval sources. Access controls are there, will always be there. Okay. Because in many cases, the model isn't the weak point. The data feeding the model is the data which is feeding the model is. Okay. Now comes DLP for AI. Okay, now traditional DLP now needs an AI lens. Uh, I've not found any outstanding solution as of now in the market to do this. People are doing it, but not to the core that I also want. They are also maturing now. So you need controls for prompt monitoring, sensitive data detection in prompts, output inspection, model interaction monitoring, policy enforcement on risky requests. Okay. Now, some organization now deploy AI-aware DLP that can detect source code uploads, regulated data in prompts, insider misuse patterns. That is becoming increasingly important. But as I said, this solution is in the early stages of maturity. Okay. Now comes the runtime monitoring and behavioral detection. So AI system need monitoring like applications too. Okay. Think SIEM plus AI telemetry plus behavioral analytics, because prevention alone is not enough. Detection does matter. Okay. And human oversight for high risk decisions is very, very important. This gets overlooked in security decisions. Sometimes the best control is human approval. And even I feel today that there is no doubt about this. The best control is human approval in today's scenario of AI, especially for financial transactions, security actions, legal decisions, healthcare decisions, and autonomous agent tasks. Human in the loop control remains vital. Uh, as I always say this multiple times, even to my own team, not every decision should be delegated to automation. And coming from the military background, I know I understand the importance of it. Then secure the AI supply chain, because compromising AI components can be the next supply chain blind spot. Uh, Build governance and policy controls. We already had a word about it, NIST AI RMF2, then 42001, GDPR, DPDPA. You know, Security without governance is incomplete.
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously it's both. One of the layer is not going to work. You just talk about, putting in certain governance layers and you start monitoring, you start auditing. That all is
Yes.
must. But then if you're not securing it, then there is a leakage and there is a exposure
Yes.
and misuse. And the insights you have given are amazing. You talked about a lot of different use cases and lot of scenarios, and how do you protect in each case or in each scenario and what can happen. So I think it's much, much, much beyond maybe an organization can think, because we or every organization will definitely want to think in their perspective. But coming from a background or from an organization, I think you, irrespective of the industry, you need to know how it's going to work.
Yes. Yes.
So, and you talked about these absolutely about data protection. So that's going to be, or rather, that irrespective of even, when DPDP came in, that added value, and AI with TPDP has made it all the more relevant that it's very critical to have data protection in place. So when we talk about these aspects, it becomes very important for us to understand the long-term resilience for it. So we're talking about today, but AI is there, AI is going to be there, and it's about long term. So how about long-term resilience in the AI security with respect to cryptography and governance if you have to think on it? So managing encryption keys or managing encryption itself. So there are ways where companies keep track of these things, and how this can help you avoid any kind of issues which might arise because of the usage of AI models or any kind of AI chatbots, etc.
Uh, Great. I think this topic is very close to your heart also, as I can understand, and from our previous interactions and experience together. So 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 what I think is, this is massively underestimated topic, to be very frank. Everyone talks about AI models, uh, you know, uh, but very few talk about the trust infrastructure underneath them. But AI, cloud, API, automation, machine to machine communication all rely on trust built through. you know.
Yeah, that's right.
And what is that trust built through? It is built through certificates. That trust is built through encryption keys. That trust is built through secrets, tokens. That trust is built through machine identities, you know. And if that trust fabric breaks, resilience breaks, you know. uh, I think we had this interaction to let's exclude the AI component of it, but we had this interaction one on one when GISA and my previous organization were interacting for one of the project, and these are the questions we asked each other. Even I asked you, and we had this thorough communication or thorough interaction, that why your particular service or product was required in this case. These are the these are the these were the reasons, right? Now, machine identities are the new attack surface. Okay, and this is a very big shift. In many enterprise, machine identities now outnumber human identities dramatically, and we are seeing this is going to increase. This is going to increase exponentially, sometimes by thousands or by millions also. Every workload, container, API, agent, microservice, AI systems may have its own identity right now and in future also. And many organizations have weak visibility over them, and that's very, very dangerous. uh, Expired certificates are not just operational issues. People often treat certificate expiry as IT hygiene, but it's much bigger. When we do red teaming or VAPT exercises, and we try to bring this issue also out, and in that case management is able to understand. Yes, so we have seen outages caused by expired certificates impact, banking services, cloud services, critical applications. An expired certificate can cause business disruptions.
Yeah,
uh, in
we've had
resilience
cases.
yeah.
We've seen these cases, definitely.
Yes, yes. And in resilience terms, that's availability risk. And in cyber resilience, availability is the security. Now, so what should an organization do? Now, after all this, knowledge both of us are given, the other side will ask that what should an organization do? So the first is inventory everything. We maintain FAR already. Fixed asset registers maintain. In that we maintain the software licenses, we maintain the hardware inventory and everything. So I always say you cannot secure what you cannot see. So discover what you have to discover is certificates, keys, secrets, service identities, workload certificates, visibility first always. Now
Absolutely.
automate lifecycle management. Manual certificate management does not scale. Now you have to use automation for issuance, renewal, rotation, revocation, expiry monitoring. Uh, this is where organizations move from reactive management to resilience engineering. What automation does is it reduces the human error. You know, and many outages are human errors. We have seen in the industry. Then comes centralized trust management. Avoid fragment key management. Blind spot leads to incidents, is what I feel. Apply zero trust to machine identities. This is very, very critical. We talk about zero trust for humans, but it applies equally to the machines. Authenticate every workload, authorize least privileges, continuously validate trust. This authorized least privilege is very, very important. People have to understand it in today's scenario. Now that becomes more important in AI ecosystem. Then prepare for the AI agents. This is where it gets really interesting, because as autonomous agents emerge, they will access APIs, authenticate to the system, make decisions, trigger actions. Already doing so. That means machine identity security will become even more central in this case. Uh, what I think is, in next few years, this becomes one of the biggest conversations in the cybersecurity. We are talking it about today, but this will be the biggest cybersecurity conversation in the coming time.
I'm sure.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Please give us your inputs on how do we build AI models, and if we can build AI models where security by design can happen while you're building it?
Okay, so what I think is, first of all, while building the AI models, I'll reiterate this question a bit before that.
Sure.
What you have to think is, uh, you have to build the security systems for future risk. For example, I think organizations need to stop preparing for the individual threats and
Hmm.
start engineering the adaptability. Because future risk won't come from one thing. It will come from the combination of how I don't know how many of the attendees have seen the Terminator movie, but while using the AI model, it always reminds me of the Terminator, and few other movies in that case, so it will come from the combination of Matrix in that case, Terminator and Matrix, yeah. So AI-driven attacks, automation abuse, supply chain compromise, uh, quantum impacts, you know,
Right.
yeah, uh, identity-centric attacks. The pace is too fast for static defense.
Mm-hmm.
Now what we have to do is we have to move from security to resilience in this case. Now this is a shift. Security often asks, how do I prevent an attack? Resilience asks, how do I continue, operation despite attacks? Now that is the shift we have to look into.
Okay, I think it's a combination, obviously,
It's a
of
combination.
of
Yeah.
what you've been observing and what we have been, deploying.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Even so, all this comes from the military warfare. For example, whatever is happening in Middle East,
Mhm.
or the entire Middle East region is involved. Multiple countries are involved. I'll not name any of the countries in this case, but we all know. Now, nobody is now thinking. And everybody initially thought of that. How do I prevent attacks? You know, but now every country, and we see all the Middle East countries, now they are thinking that how do I continue operating despite these attacks? These attacks are happening, they're gonna happen. But how do I continue about my economy, about my day-to-day activities, about trade, about cyber security also, about the war front also. So this mindset changes everything. And uh, priorities now the priorities will focus on continuous validation, threat intelligence led defense, that is preemptive attack identification, AI red teaming. One of the exercises we do very continuously, we are getting these engagements at a high scale now. Security automation, cyber recovery planning,
Okay.
yeah, resilience testing. Now assume disruption. Okay, always assume that it is going to happen. So assume disruption, and design for recovery. That's the future for readiness as per my understanding of this topic. You know, that is what I'll say. So as I said, even in the current scenario, which we all can relate to, and AI also played a role into it. One of the countries, they attacked. They were able to kidnap the head of that country within hours, and now they are struggling here for days and even months now. So the result will vary. uh, what you thought that my operation will be this small or this big doesn't matter. The repercussions, the
Right.
outcomes might change at any point in time. So you
Right.
have to come to the resilience part, that how do I continue operating despite the attacks or despite the ongoing engagements with the multiple entities. Yes.
Absolutely. I think, perspective, this is a new perspective which I have got definitely because of what we do and how we look at security by design or protection by design. And obviously, how do you look at? And definitely the perspective from your side is a new way of looking at it or one way of looking at it. Just to add on to what you said, how we look at the aspect maybe from a security product development company or a security organization, is basically what we ask is, as you rightly said, how do I make sure attack doesn't happen? So maybe that's one angle, and how do I continue despite of whatever happens? So these are two definitely parallel things which are you cannot ignore both, right?
Yes.
So we consider in a way where your models are designed in such a way that you have to ensure that while the prompt or any data has been feed into your models, there is a discovery or identification. Like you said, visibility is there in terms of if there is a sensitive information or information which should not be disclosed, identifying that information and ensuring that information is redacted or tokenized or in a particular format which is not visible and the LLMs are secure. So that's one of the way where we see that while you build it, you build it with the protection or with the security. But absolutely the other side of it, despite of all of this, anything happens, how do I continue? How do I make
Yes.
it resilient? Is equally very, very important. That's very, valuable input that we have. So since we've been discussing on this topic and talking for quite a while, let's just understand in case the audience has any questions. Otherwise, obviously we can continue with couple of more hour insights and then something from you and then before we conclude.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
we'll just leave it to audience in case you have any questions. So let's see if there are any questions for us. Because what I feel is this topic is most wanted, but equally it's very heavy. So we have to see if there are any questions. Or we can also definitely, I don't see any questions coming in right away. So we can park this and we can always answer the questions if anybody has any time or offline or online once we the
Definitely.
questions from the audience. So let me just see because generally, okay, maybe it's in the private chat. Just give me a moment. Okay, how do you want to, when you talk about agility, there's a question around how do we, what is your point of view around the crypto agility from a cyber resilience point of view? Sorry, this I guess is one-on-one question. Maybe Dheeraj, you have anything to add on to this?
You'll have to repeat the question, ma'am.
Okay, any inputs or any point of view that you have around the crypto agility from a cyber resilience point of view?
Okay. Uh, I think um, crypto agility is, moving from being a niche cryptographic concept to becoming a core cyber resilience requirement, Um, and honestly, I see it as one of the most underestimated strategic topic in security right now, Uh, for example, all of us are talking about AI. Nobody talks about quantum computing as of now. Okay. I think SHA 256 was came into picture in 2001 or 2002, still operational, came from military, like all other technology, and it is still securing the entire, internet, you know. Uh, but what will happen if quantum computing will come into picture, and how early will they be able to break this uh, particular, the cryptographic values of this particular
Mm-hmm.
technology? Yeah. So honestly, I see it as one of the uh, so because when people hear crypto agility, they often think it's simply means changing encryption algorithms. It's a little bigger than that. Mm. I look at crypto agility as mm, see, it will be the ability of an organization to rapidly discover, replace, rotate, upgrade, adapt the cryptographic controls without disrupting the business operations. Now, the business disruption of business operation or the opposite of it is very, very important for us. CISO. business disruption cannot happen, should not happen,
That's
and now in a world of evolving threats, that adaptability is resilience. Okay. So why crypto agility matters now? Historically, organizations developed cryptography almost as a sat and forge control, but the threat landscape no longer supports that model. Because cryptography now has to evolve continuously, and several forces are driving it. For example, quantum threats are making this urgent. I just now talked about it. Uh,
right.
mm,
So,
for example,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
Your inputs, please.
no, 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 absolutely. I was saying exactly when we talk about crypto agility, I think you made a very strong statement about being able to, upgrade, rotate, and be with it without disrupting the business, which is a very, very strong statement which covered everything that any organization would want to have when we talk about crypto agility. So I'm
Yes.
sure this answers the question. Yeah, please add on. You have some
Yeah,
inputs just
even
vanishing.
now, this is becoming a board conversation also. I recently read an article somewhere on the internet that crypto agility is becoming a board conversation now. Because this is no longer just a technical cryptography discussion. It touches the business continuity. It just touches the
Yes,
regulatory readiness. It touches the quantum preparedness. Okay,
absolutely
supply
right.
chain trust. So that makes it strategic, not just technical. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yes.
So I guess yes, what you said is very important. It's just not no more a technical topic, but it has become a discussion in board, and especially with quantum coming in place. Though people are not talking much about it, but there are. It's not everywhere that it's talked about, but basically more of at a strategic level. So I'm sure it's
Yes.
going to be something which is equally will be discussed as we are discussing AI today, and I'm sure we will have next discussion or few discussions even with you around your thoughts on quantum. So we'll definitely come on that as well. Overall, I would like to thank you, Dheeraj, for being such a wonderful guest and helping us with so many insightful, points from your side. If there's anything else you want to add on, we can take up that
Yes,
before we
yes.
wind up our session.
So when we talk about, cyber resilience, or one of the problems my organization solves is full stack cyber resilience is for the CISOs or the, all the cyber security functions. Now the issue is or the issue is they are looking for they're looking for the organizations or partners who can solve all their problems under one umbrella. They do not want to go to different vendors, service providers, and all. So that is what full stack cyber resilience is. For example, governance. We were talking about governance and compliance today. So that helps you to identify the risk. Okay.
Right.
Now comes the security. Now security will include solutions, will include products, and services. Services like red teaming, VAPT, dark web monitoring. One of the topics very close to my heart. Brand monitoring, phishing simulations, and all. Uh, you know, Now this helps you to mitigate the risk. Implementing DLP, SASE, CASB, giving some examples. Firewall, and implementing role-based access controls. This comes under security. Now you cannot, sometimes you have to look at the budget. CISOs of the security functions have to look after the budget, and they say, okay, this was the risk we identified, and this is the risk we have mitigated, but there is still some risk which we want to transfer. The residual risk you want to transfer. So you will not be accepting the risk now. As of now, it is not in the right direction. So the risk transfer, how will you transfer the risk? Now, the risk transfer happens with cyber insurance or the insurance. So make 5-year roadmap, 3-year roadmap plan, see what all are your future plans, and then take cyber insurance to safeguard yourself from a lot of time unseen risks also. For example, zero-day attacks. For example, a disgruntled employee, that will have because of that and other scenarios.
Right.
So that is where cyber insurance comes into picture. you know
Yeah,
and so that is how
absolutely.
it is called as full stack cyber resilience. Yes.
Yes. So I think no, it's very critical because as you talked about, one is about protecting what you're building, but second is about building that resiliency, which is way too critical. So
Yes.
definitely this helps a lot, and I'm sure the way we insure ourselves, our life, we will require definitely insurance to ensure the technology that we have.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dheeraj,
Thank you.
for
Thank you,
sharing
Dheeraj.
these insights with us and for joining here. Thank you so much, everyone. So today we talked about how AI is just not only a powerful tool, but how strong we need to have the security for protecting our data and the models. And at CryptoBind, we focus on helping organization build this strong foundation through encryption, key management, and secure infrastructure. So we hope this session gave each one of you very insightful inputs for securing AI systems and building cyber resilience. Stay tuned. See you in the next episode. Until then, stay safe, stay secure. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.